Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, REMAX Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker, where it's just my goal to bring on some cool people to talk about things that are going on, sometimes real estate, sometimes not. Today, we have an award winner with us, someone who's so amazing, Jennifer Romero DeFei. She is unbelievable. And we'll go into her story, but some of the things, she's the broker owner of REMAX Lifestyles in Hackensack, New Jersey. She and I started about the same time, I think about 7 or 8 years ago in real estate. And also, I'm a very older version of Jennifer. But Jennifer personality, her everything about her, it makes her so great. She's been awarded the top 3% of agents in her part of New Jersey almost every single year. But a huge award that I really wanted to call out that I think is the creme de la creme is that you received, I think in 2022, the National Association of Realtors NAR 30 under 30, which is a national award given out to people that are doing the right thing every single day. And with that, I'd like to welcome Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited to be the first one too.
Well, you know what? Since the 7 years that I've been involved, you've been involved. You have such a way about you. You're very energetic. You're always working. I felt a kind of similar to me in a way. And so I guess the highest compliment I could give you was my brother needed to move from Livingston, New Jersey. You were younger, newer. I was new too, but you were younger. And my brother's house was like $1.1 million. You had never, I don't think, even sold in Livingston, New Jersey before.
No.
And I just knew that I wanted you to represent my family. And obviously, it's such an amazing job just being there, explaining things, handling the clients in an area that you didn't necessarily know. As you know, in real estate, you don't have to sometimes know the town exactly. You have to know people and
Yeah.
communicate through making the house open. So that was,
Yeah, that was
I
a
had you go in
huge
with my brother and my sister-in-law, and you won them over, and you did the job. You were amazing with that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great, great sale, great memory. And you're right. That was the first time I had sold in Livingston. And to your point, I think that a lot of times consumers, right, they really focus on getting someone that is like super hyper local. And that's not always necessarily what I think they should be looking for. They should more so be looking for, is this agent going to do right by me? Are they going to come to the showings? Are they going to do the open houses? Or are they going to go the extra mile, right? Because anybody could put a sign in front of a house. Anybody could say they're from the town or I live down the street or whatever it is, but are you really going to do what's best for that person and get them the best sale possible? That's really what's the key.
Agree. Well, we're both Remax. That just happens to be what it is. We do like our balloon. We do like it. But really, putting the sign on the lawn, the Jennifer on the lawn, whatever brand it was, it's you, right? You're the one.
Yeah,
Remax isn't really selling it. You're the one that's selling it. I have
100%.
always said that as well. So,
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, like you, I own my office and I love Remax. I love the brand, but I've always believed that it's the agent because at the end of the day, the brand might give you a little bit of the boost, but the one doing all the hard work, the legwork, showing up over and over and over again is the agent. So,
yeah. I mean, you also have such a way of like with social media. You are, I'm on my kids when they see my phone and how much time I'm on the phone, they're laughing and they're like, how could you even be in texting that much? And I'm like, that's just what we have to do because you have to make yourself. I say I'm available to return calls 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call or text me 24/7. It doesn't bother me if I'm sleeping, my phone won't ring or whatever. So I'll just get it in a couple hours later. But you're constantly networking. I always see you like on Facebook. someone, and you have people throughout the country. So people on the Facebook groups are like, oh, I have someone that needs to buy here or sell here. And you're always like, oh, you got to use this person. You should use this person. And you're very,
Yeah.
very active and a connector.
Yeah, definitely. I love that word. I think I'm a connector, and I've always been like that, even before real estate, right? I was always the person that you ask, like, hey, where should I get my hair done on Fridays? You know somebody. Like, I always loved doing that. I really enjoyed it. So I just kind of took that approach in real estate too. And so I like to be that resource for people, especially because in my community, right? Like, I know a lot of local plumbers or local contractors or whatever. And then I just took it a step further where I was like, you know what? Well, REMAX is a really big community in itself. And I don't limit myself to just REMAX because I make it a point to meet realtors from other brands as well. But what is available to me, I go to for the most part if I can. So I do a lot of like networking events out of state. I do a lot of things that are local too. And I do stuff that's not just real estate. Sometimes I go to like we have around here like these investor meetups where people will talk about starting up and investing in real estate, or I've gone to just like local chamber of commerce meetings as well. But I make it a point to meet people and try to connect with them on a genuine level too, because a lot of these people have turned into friends that I keep in touch with. So it's nice to have that.
100%. I get this a lot where walking in New York City and people are like, oh, Danny. And I'm just like, I need help. Like I'm not. And the funny thing is, I had someone recently in the city reach was like, Danny started talking to me, engaging me as I'm walking into a restaurant with my family, my children, and then it turns out it's a client that I'm representing that I've never met. They're in California. They just happened to be in New York for the weekend, and they saw me from Facebook. I'm going to sell some land of there, so I never met them. And it
That's
was
so
just interesting. Do you have any funny stories like that of meeting people
well.
outside of the real estate world? So you kind of you forget a little bit, and then you're like, you need a little bit of reminding.
Yeah, it's well, I've had a lot of like out of state people, right? And so what's funny is, keep in mind, so yesterday was my birthday, as you know, and I just turned 29. But I've been doing this now almost 7 years. So I was really young when I first started, really young.
Yeah.
And I think I worked twice as hard to build credibility and to not appear so young, right? With the words that I would use and how I would just kind of overall display myself. And the funny thing is, I do get a lot of out of state people in the sense of like I've done a lot of estates, and sometimes people contact me and I don't really meet them until like either the transaction is closed or about to close. And I think I've, in a few circumstances, especially when I was younger, like by the time they went to meet me, I've already worked all these months and they're a little, I think, sticker shock that I'm so young.
Do you even have
They're
a
like,
license? Do you even have a driver's
yeah,
license?
they're like, oh, like I've seen it in their face where they're like, wow, I didn't expect her to be this young, So that I've had a few instances like that where they're like, oh, okay, but you
And,
win them over.
and I do think what's so special for you, besides referring you my brother, which was your largest listing at the time, I also referred to you about $1 million buyer
Yes.
in that same year. So I feel like I was very helpful in that in the
Well,
early
you were
stages.
super
But
helpful, and I'm always going to be grateful for that because that builds also, right? Like it was a great sale, but it helped me build the foundation to get more of those type of sales and to build that credibility of like, hey, I can do this.
and I knew that, but also I knew that if I referred you, I could refer you and not worry about it, right? Like I knew that you were doing the right thing. So that's interesting. It's not about how old you are. It's about your effort and your energy and your intelligence. Like you are
Yeah.
so intelligent with dealing with people, right? So it's a shame that they don't grade things like that in school because you and I probably would both do really well like that.
Yeah, yeah, I think
But
so. Yeah,
it's a way about it. And some clients you have to push, some you not so you can't push, and you just have to
yes,
work it. But you were really, and I feel it has a lot to do with your work ethic and
yeah,
who you are as a person. Because again, so it's interesting because you and I both started at the same time. I started in my 40s, you started in your 20s, but we both had the same background in essence of nothing, right? From a real estate.
yeah,
And so it probably is easier for me because I am older. I mean, I owned a house at the time and whatever, but ultimately we were in the same spot. And so
yeah,
how do you then make people feel comfortable? And part of it is your knowledge, right? So if I'm
yes,
assuming if you don't know an answer, you're going to get the answer. And so that
yeah.
you're not just shooting from the hip.
Exactly, 100%. And, to your point, like when I started, right, like I was, not only was I really young, but to be sincere, like I did not know the difference between a water heater and, an HVAC system. I had no idea. I was renting, I was young, I had never owned a house. So that was an extra step that I had to overcome. And so what I did, especially when I was brand new, like I watched so many YouTube videos, I can't even tell you. That I was obsessed. All I did was watch YouTube. I read books. I would go on Google and research, like I would say in New Jersey, styles of homes, and I would try to get an idea of them, and then I would just apply it. Like a lot of times when I first started, I really didn't have that many clients. I would have one or two people that I was working with, and I would just go to a new listing. And this was also a different time. There was more inventory to look at, right? We know the market is the way it is right now, but I would go to a new listing that was maybe vacant or an open house, and I would just stop in and take a look at it, even if I didn't have anyone for it, and just take a look at it and just get an idea for what these different houses would look like inside. Because I was so young, I really didn't have that exposure at that age. And I would go to open houses. I would pay attention to how other people were talking, other realtors were talking and presenting and doing their open houses. And I would just get a little bit of information from each person and then apply it in my own way. And I think that, to your point, like I really prepared myself as much as I possibly could within my own hands, right, to do. But then there's just things that you just learn through experience. You just have to experience it and do these things to get that type of knowledge. And I think that because I was young and new, I knew I had to work really hard to appear knowledgeable. And if I didn't know the answer, I would find it one way or another. I said, let me get to the appropriate channels. I'll get you that answer. But I was never one to just wing it. I had to be prepared.
And I think that's what people definitely saw about it. It was interesting is from watching Million Dollar Listing and all these other shows, people probably think that you walk into a house and you're saying everything about the architecture, everything about when things were built. I personally don't feel that my clients care that much about it. So it's more like walking in the house and I mean, you and I have both probably done about 1,000 inspections right now.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that before real estate, I probably didn't know much about it. Now you and I feel probably that we can walk through a house and we can like during a showing, we're like, that's a leak, or that's something that we don't have to worry about. Like we kind of
Yeah.
we have an idea, oh, that foundation is going to be a problem, or that's asbestos. So while we're not licensed inspectors, we've done it so many times and seen it so that we're able to try to guide our clients pre that part of pre-offer, pre-inspection, or what have you.
Yeah, and that's the value that you bring as an agent, right? Because, like you said, I think people make the mistake of thinking they have to know absolutely everything. Like some of these, they have to know absolutely, and that's not, no one really needs to know every single detail, or they don't care to know every single detail about the house, but you need to know enough. And then the rest of it really is your work ethic, your personality, right? Are you pleasant? Are you nice? Are you coming in, with a bad attitude? Like these things are important because it's sales at the end of the day, and no one wants to deal with somebody for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months that is just a nasty or not nice person, right? That's a big factor too.
So I call the podcast Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I'm actually working on a book actually as well, because we have some
Oh,
crazy,
awesome.
crazy stories that happen. I mean,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking about some of those in the podcast, but give me a couple of examples of crazy stories that have happened from you, either with a
Oh,
listing,
had
going to
so
visit
many.
a house, or just things that you share, you're able to talk about.
I could tell you, some of the craziest, I've done different facets of real estate. I could tell you that some of the craziest, really crazy that you're like, this can't be real life type of stuff that I've dealt with has been mainly when so I used to do, right now, there's not too many, but I used to do prior to COVID foreclosures. And I would list them for some banks, right? Not a huge amount, but I would do a little bit of that during the year. Those were the craziest stories I have ever, I mean, just stuff that you're like, how did this person like live like this, right? Like hoarder situations, or people who hoard animals. Or you would have, like one time I had somebody that they were a tenant at the property and they had been living there for years and they had absolutely no idea. They were paying rent to somebody who said that they were related to the owner, that the owner was quote unquote sick. Well, that sick owner was dead and nobody was paying the bank. And so the bank foreclosed, and these poor people had been paying rent and had absolutely no idea that there was anything wrong. So it's just like all these crazy things that you're like, how is this possible? Those were stories that I couldn't believe. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
So one of my crazy stories was a woman whose family lived in the house for 100 years, and we were selling, and she was selling the next day. Was closing was at 10 a.m. And I just did a visit at noon the day before just to check in, just to say hello. And she had so much stuff in the house. She was just overtaken with the anxiety of moving. I ended up getting within 2 hours, 6 people. So it's all about networking and connecting. But one of my contractors also were able to, they've emptied some houses for me. I got like 2 people there in 2 hours and 6 people there a couple hours later. We were there until midnight going
Yeah.
through trying to help them. I mean, I'm going through the woman's at 8 o'clock at night. My wife was like, "You would never even do this for us." And I go, "I know, because I would hire a moving company." But like going through like her refrigerator, trying to clean it out. And she's like, "There's open gorgonzola cheese." And she's like, "Might want a sandwich later." We're moving tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And
Oh my
so,
goodness.
but it was
Yeah.
really hard. But again, we deal with people. So
Yes.
it's hard, and you just have to work with people, and you just try to, you have to empathize with them, and you help them. And that was a pretty crazy, and how we could get it cleaned, because it was going to cost her like $10,000. That's what the buyer said. If it's not clean, that's what it was going to cost. And every dollar mattered to this person. This was her retirement account. So it's like, even though I wouldn't do it for myself, I was there for 12 hours until 12 o'clock. And then there was still some cleaning the next morning. And you just got to do what you got to do to make it work. And we're dealing with
Exactly.
people.
And exactly too, but like you have to, and but that's what makes a that's the difference between a really great agent and just an agent, right? Because somebody could just say, "Hey, sorry, it's your problem, figure it out." But a really great agent is going to go the extra mile one way or another. I have been scrubbing. Do I want to scrub toilets and clean a bathtub? Of course not. I don't want to do it at home and I have to do it, right? But you know, I've done these things in order to get something done right away because I don't know, so and so's waiting outside to get the pictures done. They told me it was clean. I come inside, it's not. And I'm like, give me 10 minutes. And I remember one day I had to do that in a condo and I cleaned the whole entire outfit. There was bleach all over me. And I was like, you know what, whatever. I got it done. The place sold. It looked great. But my point is that sometimes you do have to go the extra mile. And whatever that means, you do it. You do it. A great agent is going to do it. And they'll have a good story to tell later.
So that's why I want to write my book, and have conversations about it, because they're like, and it's many times people, I really do things for my Zillow reviews, my Google reviews. I figure
Yes.
that if I can supersede people's expectations, when we close, they're going to just write what happened and
Yeah.
what they feel. And that helps get me more business as well. And I know that if I do everything for my review, then I'm going to be in a good place.
Yeah.
And I've read your reviews. It's the same, we're very similar.
Oh,
I
thank
guess
you.
the worst is when I once paid to have someone's oil tank removed. It was a flip. They weren't really doing a good job with the flip. We couldn't sell the house with the oil tank in the ground. I lent the money, I paid it prior to closing. And guy just didn't like how things were going down, and actually wasn't even like thankful. Or like,
Oh,
I lent you $9,000 with no interest just so we could help sell your house. But you know what? I got to do the right thing I got to do what I think is the right thing. And
yeah.
it's a shame. It's a shame that maybe because he was losing money. And again, he did the flip
Yeah.
on the owner to do that. But I just want to always do the right thing every single time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, it's very rare that people aren't like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah,
it
I agree.
happens.
Most people, right? Like in this business, you meet so many people and all types of people and from all types of walks of life and ethnicities, cultures, religions, everything. And it's great and it's amazing. And that's my favorite part about this job. And I would say most of the people that you meet are great. But here and there, you might meet someone that, maybe isn't as appreciative as you would have liked, but it is what it is. It's part of the business, right? You just move on. And I always say, if you have 10 clients, 8 of them are really great, and you know what, and that's fine. And the ones that sometimes make it a little bit more difficult for you, well, makes you a better agent in the long run, right? You learn how to deal with more difficult personalities or obstacles or challenges, and all those difficult things while in the moment they're not fun, they do make you into a better agent.
So we're both similar that we're both agent and owner and brokers, and we also are producing agents. So we
Yes.
grow our business ourselves. How do you see yourself as a broker mentoring and training people that are on your that are affiliated with REMAX Lifestyles?
So I do a lot of mentoring. I think the fact, you know this because we've worked together, I'm a very no excuses type of person. I don't like excuses, right? So I always tell people, listen, I'm young. And if you think about it, statistically speaking, I really shouldn't be in the position that am in. I really shouldn't be a broker owner. I shouldn't be this successful. I shouldn't have had these things because statistically speaking, it is much harder for somebody at this age perhaps to do that without any help and all that type of stuff. So I always tell people, you could do it too, right? This is what I did. And I map it out and I do things from example. Like I'll do an open house on the weekends as well. You should be doing them too. Like I do mailers all the time. You should be doing them too. And I tell people, like, I don't just say to do these things, right? Like I don't just say to people, oh yeah, I don't know, having tenants is a great thing. I do actually have tenants. I believe in the stuff that I preach. So I think leading by example is one thing, and then giving people the tools to do them. And everyone works differently. And I really believe that in this business, you could do it however you want. You just have to pick what you're good at and really, really focus on that and add little tidbits from everybody that you learn and make it your own thing.
So we both must have agent younger, or it doesn't matter, younger, older, but agents that are newer to the business who were both
Yes.
who were mentoring but aren't following your guidance, your lead, or have less effort that you have. Does that frustrate you? Or do you feel
Um,
that they're independent contractors and you get what you put in? And so if you don't put in what I put in, then you're going to get less.
Yeah, I think when I had first started, it definitely frustrated me a little bit more because it's like this business is your baby, right? And you're like, come on, get up, you could do this type of thing. But then as you get more into it, you realize, to your point, right? Like, listen, you're in the position you're in because of all those steps that you took over so many years to get there. And so this business is exactly, you get out of it what you put into it. And yes, it is a more difficult market. And yes, perhaps it's not as easy right now as it was a few years ago, but there are people still making sales, which means that there's still sales to be made. And so you have to do what you have to do to get those sales. And I think that at the end of the day, everyone's success, it's really going to come from them. You can't really, there's some tools you can get from your broker. There's tools you can get from friends, family, your sphere of influence, the outside world. But a lot of it is you choosing every day to wake up and do these things, even though you haven't seen a result yet, but believing in the fact that you will see a result and doing it consistently and consistently and consistently, which is where most people fail. Most people aren't consistent. They give up way too soon.
I would agree. Or things where, as a newer agent, you should be doing 4 open houses at least a weekend, right? If able, why wouldn't you do an 11 to 1 and a 2 to 4
A
Saturday,
hundred
Sunday,
percent. A
right?
hundred percent every weekend. I can understand maybe one or two you can't do, but for the most part, it should be a part of your business plan. You should have a business plan that says, this is what I'm going to do. And when I was new, and I say this to the newer agents too, sometimes the newer agents, you don't have all these resources financially to say, oh, I'll invest in this or that, right? These things we know are expensive. Different lead generation platforms can be very expensive, but there are things you can do that are not that expensive, which just are going to cost you a lot of time. And not everybody wants to put that much time. And these are things you have to do on the weekend. Maybe you have to go to networking events. Maybe you have to get involved in your community somehow, Chamber of Commerce, get your name out there, social media, right? There's a lot you could do that isn't that expensive, but will take up a lot of time.
It's like before I was in real estate, I didn't really think about how complex it was, complicated and time consuming, right?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe back in the day, before, way before the internet, or before, like, it was probably more like an office job of a 9 to 5. You'd go in, the keys would be in the office, you'd show a couple of houses. Now, with what people, our clients can see things on the internet all the time. People can be texting you at all hours of the day because different people are on different shifts. That's what's going on. So
Yeah.
it's crazy, but
It's a roller coaster.
totally. You are a star in the business.
Thank you.
I love watching everything that you do. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll do it again because you have so much to offer. I appreciate it and wishing you the best for everything. And we'll see each other out in the field, I'm sure.
Yes, that's for sure. We'll work some more deals together.
Thank you. So again, this is an Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. And thank you, Jen, so much. Happy birthday yesterday and continue with much success.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me on the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, REMAX Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York Realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.